Welcome to Criterion Month. We're talking Repo Man.
Mike, your audio isn't going.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to juggle too many things because we have a new setup. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
We're professionals here.
Professionals.
Yeah.
Welcome back. The First Last Nerdom, where the show where we explore the first, last, and all the gloriously bizarre corners of nerd, cult, and cinema history. We're rolling on with Criterion Month. Our deep dive into films that earn their place in the pantheon, not by playing it safe, but by being bold, strange, stylish, or downright rebellious. This week, we're shifting gears from surreal dystopia to punk rock absurdity with one of the most iconic cult classics of the 80s, Repo Man. How Mike didn't see this one is beyond me, because I'm Mike. Sci-fi indeed. Alex Cox's Repo Man is a film that shouldn't work, and yet it works perfectly. It's part sci-fi, part comedy, part punk manifesto, and part existential shrug. The story follows Otto, a disillusioned punk who stumbles into the bizarre world of automobile repossession, where the cars might be radioactive. The government is always watching, and the weirdness is turned up to 11 at all times. It's a movie filled with UFO conspiracies, glowing car trunks, philosophical repo veterans, televangelists, punks with questionable career prospects, and a sense of humor as dry as the desert. It's satirical, anarchic, and anarchic. I can't. Jesus Christ. And smart in a way that sneaks up on you. Like a cosmic joke. So buckle up, check your trunk for mysterious cosmic cargo. Because we're diving into a film where the rules don't matter, the vibe is everything, and ordinary life is far stronger than any alien encounter. This month we continue on with all right. Apparently that was the end of the thing. That was the worst reading known to man. So with that being said, I'm Mike, and this is Tom, and we're here to cover this awesome movie.
Yep. Yeah, this is the First Last Nerdom, and Yep, it's a movie that reminds us that sometimes the universe makes no sense, and that's exactly the point.
Yep, absolutely, yeah. So, all joking aside, with my absolutely horrific mangling there, I had never seen this before, and we do these theme months. You come up with these genius ideas, and then we kind of pick. You go. Usually, you have something or other, and I'll kind of do the counter pick to follow it, and that's no different this month or this week, excuse me, for this particular show. I'd never seen this one before, and we'll get into it here, but first we got to pay the bills. Again, we are the first. You can find us at our home base on our website at FirstLastNerdom.com. Should you be of that particular mind and flavor, this is the last rolling 10 carousel of our last 10 releases. We get all kinds of things in there. Anyway, we do that there, and then you can also catch us on our home base is YouTube, where you can subscribe to us. So I want to thank the recent subscribers who reached out and decided to hit the bell and the subscribe button. Really do. Tom and I really appreciate it. We do this thing there. But speaking of doing other things here, I think you do something with something about Blue It or Green It. No, it's Reddit.
Yeah, I'm on Reddit under First Last Nerdom. I try to promote herself on different subreddits. I tried the I found a Terry Gilliam. I should look for a Criterion subreddit. I'm sure there is one. Try to promote us there, but yeah, sometimes it gets deleted, sometimes it doesn't. The Gilliam site or subreddit let us on there, didn't ban us or delete us or anything, so that's good. Yeah. I'm also on X. That's probably my home base for as far as social media under FirstLastNerdom. I'll promote our stuff there anytime something comes out. I just finished reading Joe Hill's King Sorrow, so I might be putting up a short on our site as well. But yeah, anytime we have something new, I try to promote it on our X site, and then you have a personal X site.
Yes, sir. Yes, I do. I am. You can also find me on X, ApeIt_Ink, where me and Tom once in a while we'll have a conversation or a little sidebar on something nerdy
Chin
or
wag.
unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything, really, any. We come across some stuff. Also available on ApeIt.Ink, where you can find my long form content. But this week is all about Repo Man, and like I was very excited to find this one. Had never come across it before. Wasn't even aware of it. Surprised that it's not more well known. But that's, alas, that is the forever the fate of the of the. I'm sure it is well known, and if you are you know initiated. But I had no idea. This is perfect sci-fi, kind of good break for different. It's good to break it up once in a while. This is completely random that I found this one, and I was like, "Hey, you want to do this one?" There's another one that I was looking at, but it was too obscure, and it wouldn't have worked. But this one is awesome in its own right. It's really cool that
Yeah, it's yeah, yeah. You picked it. We kind of went back and forth on Criterion, and you kind of, I guess, was going through a list of them and said, "Hey, Repo Man." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." But yeah, it's one of those. I got the of course I got the Criterion since it's Criterion month. You got to go with the Criterion 4K. It's actually pretty cool 4K. A lot of them are in the clamshells, but this is like the kind of a hard cardboard, but it kind of some of them I'm not real keen on when they get kind of creative, but this one's kind of cool. You got some inserts in there. You got that, and then you got a lot of times they have a poster in there with an essay, but this time they went all out and they gave you a whole little book. And Alex Cox does sort of like a visual essay, almost like a comic book, describing the production of the movie, which is really cool. There's an interview with a actual Repo Man that he went writing with for a while, that gave him the idea of maybe doing the movie. And then there's like an essay as well. But then you got your inside, which continues with the cool artwork, and then you got your 4K and your Blu-ray. It's one of those movies that was always on my radar to watch. It was one of those cult movies that I knew I'd most likely enjoy, but for one reason or another, a lot of times when you, with me, if I don't see something right away, it starts getting pushed back and back as far as I'll watch that movie eventually when I get a chance or the right opportune time. And then since the pandemic, I've been going through and like checking off all the things that I said I would do, but never got around to it. And right. So when Criterion came out with this 4K last year, I was like, okay, this is a perfect time for me to finally buckle down and watch this movie. And I picked it up, I think, at the beginning of the year, and I watched it. I don't think I mentioned it to you, so when you picked it as a movie to cover this week, I was kind of surprised and happy because, like I said, it was fresh on my mind. So yeah,
it's so funny how we've done this thing. We've worked together for years. Well, literally, yes, a long time ago. But also work on this thing collaboratively that we do. That is the First Last Nerdom, and that is that's the wonderful part about what we try to find these things. And it's just a lot of times entertainment is so big and wide, depending upon what's going on or trending or whatever, or what, and never mind what's trending, what we're aware of. And we have our own little things that we're not too far apart on YouTube and our channels that we like to follow. We certainly have different opinions and tastes therein, but there is still larger things that will come through the door. Like, this. I was kind of already primed to be in a punk mood anyway, because I've been playing Cyberpunk, I should say, and we were just talking about that too, kvetching about games and prices and whatnot. But for the most part, this is just fun. It's an awesome, really cool story. I had no clue. It is, science fiction black comedy if you want, it's kind of, it's there. So
A
I had
satire of the 80s,
Right.
maybe early
Right. Well,
80s.
yeah.
Reagan era. Yeah.
Yeah. There is that for sure in spades. But yeah, so it's just even more of a seal of approval when you are like, yeah, you actually have it. That's the important thing to get here. Let me turn back on the sharing window here. And then,
because sharing is caring.
sharing
But
is-
yeah, no, yeah. So basically, the movie's about this punk rocker, aimless. He just got fired from his job, and it's kind of directionless. And he runs into a Repo Man, and they form a bond, and the adventure ensues. Also, it has some strange man with maybe some atomic weapon in his trunk or something that the government may be after. It's one of those movies that I thought I knew it before I saw it, but then when I saw it, it was something. It wasn't completely different from what I imagined it would be, but it was definitely different. It's kind of structureless, but it does have a structure to it. So it's not like it's not like, say, one of those movies that's just a bunch of vignettes, but it does have that feel to it. The characters kind of stumble into each other off and on. You have these reoccurring characters that come in and out of the story. But there's an actual kind of story there. You got your UFOs. I kept thinking it kind of ties in with almost everything that we've kind of covered so far this month.
Really,
the previous month, like X-Files.
Yep.
There's a little bit of a Brazil overlap actually from last week. Yeah. There's all sorts of because
energy.
Yeah. And another cool thing on the 4K is much like Brazil, when they try to do the, you try to get some extra money by selling it to cable channels to show on cable or on regular TV, but you have to cut out all the stuff. How last week we talked about how they kind of butchered the American version of it, and then they kind of redid it for the cable release of it on Repo Man. On regular basic cable, you can't show people doing drugs or cursing or doing most of what you do in Repo Man. So they actually had to cut out a bunch of stuff. And from what Alex Cox says in the commentary, the movie, after they cut all that stuff out, was only 50 minutes long. So they had to go back and put in a lot of cutout scenes into the and then when they'd say the F word, that they had to dub it over with the go flip yourself, so they do have the cable version, cable TV version of it on here. Not good quality. It's cut down to the square dimensions of an old TV. So you got that, but it has all the flips in there and all the deleted stuff that they had to throw back in for the cable version. But that's kind of a cool extra on that.
That's awesome. Yeah, find some real ones. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was just looking. Sorry, the boy messaged me. Message him back. Sorry. Anyway, I was trying. You were doing a great job of talking about what it, this young Los Angeles punk rocker, who he lost his. This is the start, right? So you got to have a little bit of a sad sack kind of start tale, and this is no different. loses his job, girlfriend same day, has a random chance encounter with his buddy, you know,
Hmm.
or with Bud, excuse me, not Buddy, but his Bud.
But yeah,
Yeah. That, anyway,
yeah, played by the legendary Harry Dean Stanton,
yes,
who was already
legend.
legendary. Yeah, which as someone described Harry Dean Stanton to Alex Cox, which uh, put it on the commentary. He said that he was described as the Old West with a cadaver look, a cadaver-like Old West guy, which that kind of sums up Harry Dean Stanton. He has a definite look to him and a sound to him. You can't, yeah. Yeah. Once he puts his stamp on a movie, it's all over it. So yeah, he's wonderful in it, along with Otto, played by Emilio Estevez, which until they cast Emilio, that role was going to be played by I think it was Daniel Rude, is his name. It's the guy who plays the punk guy that steals the girlfriend.
Right.
The Dell. Let's see. I should probably have that pulled up. But you also have Tracey Walter as Miller, the quiet sage of the lot. No, Dick Rude. Yeah, he plays Duke in the show, but he was actually going to play the Otto role, but got you get a name like Emilio Estevez, obviously you have to go with the the lead. So, um, but yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna
While
say,
I crack open my yeah.
yeah, Boomer juice. I was gonna say, yeah. So this kind of to lay the groundwork a little bit for this, like most cult classics,
Mhm.
or at least it's in the same neighborhood of being a commercial failure. Is, didn't make all that. It hardly made anything. I mean, and for a Hollywood budget, even in the '80s, it was made with nothing as well. I mean, not to nothing. It did have a little bit of oomph behind it. 1.5 million, I think, was the budget for it. But the domestic box office did not pan out well, and that's partially because I think the studio lost because it's such a unique thing by Alex Cox. I think that it studios do this thing like where if it's just a little bit too out 2 inches outside of the normal on the edge of something, they lose their faith, and then they're just like, you know what, we're just gonna cut our losses and just kind of ship this as it were. But
Yeah, actually, it was the deal was kind of a back end deal with Universal. It's kind of interesting how it got made because obviously Alex and the two producers were film students. This was going to be their big movie, and they had the script and they showed it to Michael Nesmith, who some of you may know out there as one of the former members of the pop band the Monkees back in the 60s, which was they was formed just as a commercial grab because the Beatles were so big. But Michael Nesmith, he's one of the members of the Monkees. He after the Monkees, he was kind of looking for something to do, and his mother actually invented liquid paper. If you old enough to remember about typing and having mistakes on typing paper, you had to use something to fix your errors, and liquid paper. So she made a fortune off of that. So he had a stack of cash that he could use, and he decided that he would get into movie making, and this was one of the projects that he greenlit. So he actually fronted all the money to make the movie, and then Universal had a deal where if they actually finished the movie, then they would they would put it out, but they weren't financial responsible for anything as far as the making of it. That was all Michael Nesmith. So
okay,
which actually there was a lot of it was very important to Alex Cox and the original producers about their rights to the story and to make sure that it was their vision, because Michael Nesmith he there was a car ride that he had with Alex Cox where he was saying, okay, so we'll do this movie, but you got to have this other guy as a producer and remove those other two producers, or the movie is just not going to get made. And Alex goes, well, I guess that's it then. And he jumped out of the car and it's like, adios. so he's ready not to make the movie if there was going to be compromise. So they obviously they came back to him and said, hey, no, okay, you could have the producers. So yeah. It's definitely their vision of what it is now. Since it wouldn't be punk rock if they didn't make changes on the fly as they made the movie. Obviously, they said the movie's going to be what the movie is. So at the last moment, they did change the ending of the movie, and they changed things throughout. Harry Dean Stanton was, from what I could understand, he's a little cantankerous on the set, and he had lots and lots of problems with Alex Cox, and they got into it several times. Yeah, and so there was some scenes that he got written out of, and actually at one point Alex Cox was ready to take him out of the movie completely because over the frustrations, and Michael Nesmith talked him back into keeping Harry Dean Stanton. And I think what they finally got Harry Dean Stanton to finally act right was there was the director of cinematography that was on it. He's the kind of a legendary cinematographer. I think his name is Rob Mueller, and everybody had great respect for him, and which included Harry Dean Stanton. So every time Alex had some trouble with Harry Dean, he would say, oh, let's do it for Rob. Let's do it for Mueller. He'd go, okay. So, yeah.
All right. Sorry, I was just working our YouTube channel to put up the fix the title and the description. Pardon me.
No worries.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say too, that this had some serious credibility behind it as far as like the subject matter being punk rock. It actually had a hell of a soundtrack. It had Black Flag, it had Circle Jerks, Suicidal Tendencies, Iggy Pop. Some people, unless you're into the scene, as I like to call it, because I'm a punk. Just kidding.
You're hardcore, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I really, this is like, I'm not necessarily a music guy per se, just because I don't know how to sing. I don't, I like music, love music, but that was another kind of a cool bonus with this movie that I really did appreciate. And I think the soundtrack did fine on it. I don't know how well it did, but I think it did well enough to be considered a success as far as sales go for a soundtrack. Yeah,
it's one of the first soundtracks where they had a band heavy soundtrack as opposed to a score. Back in the day, it was very rare to have, let alone one rock song or a song like that, to where the whole soundtrack is all these different songs. And so this was one of the first movies to do that. And Alex Cox went to Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop was in kind of a downturn in his career at that point, so he was within their limited funds to garner in, and evidently he was heavily into drugs at that time. He got the guitarist Stephen Jones from Sex Pistols to do the guitar on the track, and I think the bass player and the drummer from Blondie on that track. So he did the main theme to Repo Man, and then, like you said, they had Circle Jerks and a few others. In fact, one of the actors in it, who plays Kevin, Xander Schloss, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He not only is he so there was Kevin the Nerd in this movie. He walked so that Napoleon Dynamite could run. They made a point in the commentary that the Napoleon Dynamite is almost he's very much like Kevin from this movie. He's got that curly crazy hair with the glasses and everything. But he was the actor. Kevin Schloss, or no, Xander Schloss was the actor in this, and then through this movie he met Circle Jerks and became their bass player. So he was with the Circle Jerks for a while after that. Now, in fact, Circle Jerks is the lounge band later on in this in the movie. So they portray that, but again, a lot of their music's in there. And Black Flag. Yeah, this is, back in the day when you'd have a punk in a Hollywood movie, there was you knew they weren't real punks. There wasn't that sense of authenticity. A lot of times, like today, one of the things that Hollywood gets wrong is like gamers or computer people. You can really tell when they don't understand the medium that they're dealing with. Right. And this movie was very much punk. It came from punk. It's about punk. It's has the aesthetics of punk. It's concerned with what a punk would be concerned with during that day. It's almost like how like a punk club or a punk album has all sorts of stuff scrolled over the walls or over the artwork, where it's got a bunch of what seemingly random things all splattered across it. This is sort of like that move. This movie is sort of like the embodiment of that. It's got all of these ideas, these odd kind of tangential things that just kind of go through your mind as a punk artist, and it just kind of pulls it all together into this movie that, like you said in your intro, shouldn't work but does work. It's just because it's held together by the punk attitude, the attitude of so what if this doesn't make sense? So what? So what? I'm going to do it anyway, and screw you for even being concerned about it. And that whole attitude is sort of embodied in this movie. It doesn't care what you think about it. It is what it is, and you're either going to respect it or you're going to walk away from it. And that's sort of the thing. And there's a lot of crazy stuff in this movie, but a lot of movies that are kind of cult like this would be highly offensive. This movie kind of rides that line. It doesn't become like total comedy. There is an edge to it, but it never crosses that point where you're looking away. There's not like this. It doesn't go total slapstick, and it doesn't go the other way either. It doesn't really put you off to the point where it stops being fun. Sometimes these movies could go a little too far and push things. Whereas this is sort of like a really good punk show. You have some laughs, you have some fun. You might get bashed around a little bit, but everybody goes home at the end.
Right.
Unless you're in the radioactive car and drive off somewhere into the sky.
Right. Well, and that going back to the music, that soundtrack that helped propel this to become much more beyond than just a flop that people would just forget. That, and of course VHS rentals and sales, through the 80s, and it caught a niche. Now, were you aware? I don't know too much details about this, but this did spawn some things that could be coming out in the future, or that they tried. I think there was something called Repo Chick that was batted about in like 2009. It was Alex Cox's successor, but with a female lead and whatnot. I don't know that anything came of that. I don't think it did.
There is the movie. Movie did come out.
Okay, good. All right, cool. Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure. I didn't have time to track down that. I just had the little tidbit there, that little datum that we like to bring up once in a while.
Yeah, there was they did try to do an actual sequel called Waldo's Hawaiian Holiday, which they did take the script and turn it into a graphic novel. So that's out there somewhere from Gestalt Publishing. So if you want to track that down, I wasn't aware of that. But yeah, Repo Check came out in December 3rd, 2008. And let's see. Let's see. Maybe it didn't come out. Who knows? Repo Chick. See, a sequel was reported to be going into development with the working title Repo Chick. Let's see. The story would be set. See, maybe it didn't. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah,
I kind of took it. I just assumed that it wasn't published.
Yeah, it was. It was. It was really
a project.
It was. Yeah, it was released on DVD in North America and United Kingdom in February 2011. So it did come out on DVD.
It did.
So
that's good.
Yep.
Well, we might circle back around to that, but there is, I believe that there was. They announced that the Repo Man 2, The Wages of Beer, in development. In my notes, it has a date of February 2024 when they announced it, or whatever. So maybe that's still on, but who knows? That it says that Emilio Estevez he would come back as Otto, and Kiowa Gordon from the Twilight series. I don't know who that is, but shame on me for not doing that. So hopefully maybe that would be cool. So I don't know, but anyway,
yeah.
So like basically all that means is like the production could be, if it was going to start, it would have started either last year or this year. So, and we're seeing is how we're coming up on the end of 2025. It might not ever materialize, like a lot of things. There's a lot of movies and rumors and things like that, but whether or not that it does do that, that would be great. But if not, it still holds up 40 years later. There's a reason why people love this film.
Alex isn't. Yeah, this isn't his only punk movie. He also did Sid and Nancy with Gary Oldman, which Gary Oldman, we recently talked about him on Slow Horses. But yeah, Sid and Nancy, a classic punk movie. And then he also followed that up with Straight to Hell. So that's sort of like his trilogy of punk. Straight to Hell has Courtney Love in it and a few other. I think Joe Strummer from The Clash is in that. It's not as good as Repo Man, but it's one of my. I saw Straight to Hell way before Repo Man, and that was maybe because I was into Hole and Courtney Love at the time, so I had to see that. But that one's definitely interesting. And then also he wrote and was going to direct Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but
really?
As we talked about last week, Terry Gilliam. We talked about with Brazil, he actually went on to direct it, and it's also another Criterion movie that we may be talking about in the future.
May or may not come back in. Who knows? Well, that's what I love about this stuff, because like Gary Oldman, Slow Horses, these things are kind of it builds its own ladder of where you want to go. You might hit something random or whatever, but there's going to be some overlap there with that or not, but. I was gonna say too. They announced the sequel. Like, we covered that. There was a part that I wanted to focus in on. Sorry, I was just scrolling through my notes here.
But no, there's a lot of great actors. Sid Richardson as Light. If you notice, all the Repo Men outside of Otto have beer names like Bud. You have Miller. You have Light.
Oh yeah, that's
so.
I did catch that after a while.
Yeah, and then Tracey Walter, the legendary Tracey Walter. I never know his name, but every time I see him, he's a delight to see. He was a great actor. I don't know if he's is he still with us or not, but
I think so.
But yeah, he's wonderful. He was we talked about him earlier when we talked about Conan. He was he was the character in Conan the Destroyer. He's done a lot of work in television as well. There was a TV series, very, very short-lived, but was much beloved between me and my younger sister, a show called Best of the West. And he played Frog on that, and he's forever in our hearts for that. But his role in Repo Man as the kind of sage guy that kind of runs the yard with his sage advice is kind of legendary in this movie, and he has a lot of monologues that are kind of legendary in this movie as well. There's a lot of great dialogue in this movie. There's a lot of the different monologues, and a lot of it comes straight from the Repo Man and Repo Men that Alex Cox kind of interviewed and worked with in preparation for this movie. There's the whole dialogue about where Miller talks about John Wayne being maybe gay, and about this guy that put in a two-way mirror in his place, and he came to the door. John Wayne came to the door in the dress. This was told to Alex Cox verbatim by this other guy that swore it was completely true. So I don't know if you want to believe it or not, but there's that. But there's a lot of cool little things, and one of the things that Bud does in this is give a young Otto the repo code, which also sounds a lot like one of the robot laws that Asimov did about not harming.
That is true. That is true.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's this really cool feeling of sci-fi that's kind of in this. That obviously the brash punk side of this movie kind of takes over, but there's a lot of cool little sci-fi stuff, which at the time was sort of fomenting, and like you said, sort of that cyberpunk aspect. This isn't like, I would never call this a cyberpunk movie, but a lot of the ideas that was gestating at the time were very crucial during this. And also this came out in 1984, and this is obviously an 80s movie, but has more of a 70s sensibility to it. I get more of a 70s, especially of that look of Los Angeles at that time. Downtown Los Angeles really has that kind of that 70s look to it. It hasn't quite, it hasn't fallen over into neon. That with punk, it's if there's neon around, they'd probably smash it. But
well, I would not say that it looks run down or anything, but it looks very real. And that's where you fall into that. Whether it's cyberpunk or punk or whatever, there's gangs, there's rival gangs of Repo Men. There's this, there's old Doc Brown, the mad scientist who could be mad, could be not mad. Maybe who knows, but it is fun. This is just, it's a fun ride. It's also so weird. I mean, it's serious weird too. That's the thing. Like there's really no wall breaking or anything like that. It works out. And I also we haven't even talked about Emilio Estevez, who obviously has been around forever. He was 21 when he made this.
21. Yep.
And he completely commits to his character. This
they said he liked to run around in his underwear, which he does quite a bit in this movie.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, he kind of starts with I wouldn't say it's a hero's journey. I don't know. I think it's a bit much, but he does start out in angry punk, no direction, and by the end he's still angry. but he has a little bit more of a understanding of a curtain of reality that he goes, so he doesn't really learn or grow. He's this kind of every man or every woman punk, just kind of caught up in this thing. And, like most people, that sounds exactly like what would happen. You get dumped, you get fired or quit or whatever, either or on the same day. And then, this, what the hell ever this thing is happens to you. And then, see where you land. But
Yeah, get in the car, white boy.
Well, and I also Harry Dean Stanton, as Bud, he also plays, kind of the sinner of a kind, that in a film that kind of makes you feel very nihil. I mean, it fits with the theme of just does this really matter?
Yep. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees is one of the classic lines from this, which is I think a famous quote from Spotty. But yeah, it's got a lot of, like I said, it's a hodgepodge of different things that it really shouldn't work, but it does. And then, like I said, it's that enthusiastic punk sensibility of we'll make it work. Maybe my guitar's out of tune. Maybe I can't sing. Maybe I can't play. But damn it, I'm gonna make this song and it's gonna be cool. And you can't with this movie. Obviously it's a cult classic. Like I said, I've been hearing about it for years. It's one of those movies you got to understand. 1984. You didn't have the internet. Obviously there was punks in New York. There was punks in California, which just kind of spotlights the punk aesthetic of California. But in the Midwest, and in the South, we didn't have access to all this punk. So the Repo Man and the soundtrack really informed what was punk during the 80s. You'd get the videotape at your local I don't know if Blockbuster was there in 84, but yeah, you'd go to your local video store and rent this, and maybe you cut your hair or put some safety pins through a jacket or whatnot. You'd get your look, and then you'd buy the soundtrack, and man, you opened up. You didn't have the internet to listen to the latest punk songs. You got this album, and you got the soundtrack, and you had a bunch of different punk bands immediately getting to hear these great punk sounds. So it really opened up the Midwest and the South to punk in a way that probably wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise.
Right. No, you're right.
And it was just damn cool to be able to watch Repo Man. You say, I've seen Repo Man, and you immediately knew, okay, well, this guy's cool,
It's funny how punk has this. It has a natural kind of in a way. It has an organic vibe toward science fiction in a way. Like once you start to aside from it being some kind of social activist or something. I don't know whatever you want to put, painter, whatever. But it is
there is that in there too. Like I said, there's a bunch of different stuff. Whatever your slant or look in life, you could find an angle in this movie that kind of features what you're looking for. And that's one of the cool things about this movie, because it doesn't it just shows you a bunch of stuff. It doesn't make comments on any of it. It's just there in your face, and you can pull your inferences from the movie and say, okay, well, this is what this movie's about. But is it really? Is it you kind of putting your own emotions and thoughts into it? Also, I gotta say, this movie is filmed like you wouldn't. It isn't filmed the way you would think a punk rock movie would be filmed. You would think a lot of handheld, a lot of in your face. But the cool thing about Rob Mueller as a cinematographer, he's got his stuff's on tripods. It's all no handheld. It's all kind of wide shots. Very few insert shots. He didn't like doing inserts. There was one of the interviews with one of the producers. He had to fight for the inserts and getting different coverages that they kind of need. There's the shot where one of the things about the movie is these people that are wanting and striving for something, but once they get it, they don't know what to do with it. There's a scene where him and I think it was Light and Otto had just got this car, and there's a present in it, and Otto hands him the present. as this present, and this stuff with cash. The guy doesn't know. He just tosses it out the window, and there's the big reveal when another car drives over it. It shows the money in the bag, and it's like, oh, he got the bag and then just threw it away, But yeah, that little insert of the money being shown. The director didn't, or the cinematographer didn't say, we don't need to cover that. We don't need that insert. So they snuck off and filmed that insert. So because it needs that payoff. But the look of the movie is very cinematic, and there's a lot of like driving at night. There's a lot of blue shading, and a very beautiful looking movie for a punk movie. Like I said, you would expect it to be like in your face and ugly, but this is actually a pretty nice looking movie, and does look very good in 4K. I will say.
That's why it also reminded me a lot of like They Live, like as far as if we're talking about science fiction,
or even Escape from New York.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And actually, that was shot 3 years before this one was in '81, and I was going to say, well, that's another example that it seemed to be at the time when this came out, there were like either two kinds of sci-fi. You had dystopian one like Blade Runner or Escape, or you had the big Spielberg wonder powerhouses like E.T. or et cetera. And that's why this rejected both ways of doing that. It did its own thing. Was very unique. That's why I like They Live, like that comparison point, because they and granted, They Live came in '88 when we covered that one too. But you can see that they use sci-fi as a Trojan horse, but it's not quite as like in your face as RoboCop is, and that's just another kind of like another film that had another kind of layer to it, like that was in the '80s, like that. But it didn't have to be like traditional sci-fi like that, like where they had to do massive amounts of money, on special effects and new ways to film things, kind of no different than it is today, or always trying to find new ways to do that. But here, well, what if we just put some glowing lights in a '64 Malibu and call it a day? And you can do that. You can get away with that too, with just the theater of the mind. And that, because you're already there, you don't have to do it. So like that kind of sci-fi, there's a lot of science fiction like that can work with it's very economic with its what you kind of the big reveal, or whatever kind of strange thing that you have to show on screen that would be out there.
And then the glowing trunk, obviously, I would have to say that Quentin Tarantino kind of referenced that within Pulp Fiction with the case. But yeah, a lot of this movie has a lot of influences on different things, and that one of the crazy things about watching this movie, you see all the influences that came from it. You're watching it and say, oh, well, that's from that, and then you realize, okay, well, this is the one that they snagged it from, And there's the cool scene at the beginning of the movie where the police officer looks in the trunk, and all that's left are smoking boots. But how often do you see something with a smoking trail with that's all that's left, Also, the guy who drove the the Malibu most of the time, the character J. Frank Purnell, played by Fox Harris, he could not drive. Fox Harris couldn't drive, and so a lot of times Alex Cox was driving for him in the long shots. But yeah, when he had to drive, he oftentimes he would be running into things. So that was kind of funny. Also, I think within a week or two of filming, the Malibu that they were using was stolen. So they had to scramble to find another Malibu. They got a second Malibu, and then after they got the second Malibu, the first one just showed up with no damage to it or anything. The police found it, so they actually had two. So I think at one point one of the Malibus got damaged. So it was good that they had a backup Malibu, so to speak. to do their things. And I think the original ending was that I think Otto was supposed to get in with these terrorists and set off a nuclear explosion in L.A., which I think Michael Nesmith got kind of cold feet on that one, the executive producer, and said, I don't think we can sell it to Universal if we blow up L.A. And so at the last minute, they had to rewrite the ending, and the producer came to Alex and said, "We're going to have to change the ending." And Alex goes, I'm too busy. I can't write it. You write it. So one of the producers actually wrote the ending, which I think really fits with the feel, and it just kind of it fits perfect for the movie. It's kind of got that kind of cosmic, silly but punk aspect of the rest of the movie. I don't think if they blew up LA, it would have had that same impact that the ending that's on this one does.
No, this is Alex's first at bat too. I think you mentioned that at the top of the show, but like that this is something that like like where it would take John Carpenter, he would get $5 million for his budget. Here you have Alex, who does this completely anti-genre, kind of doing its own thing, but also borrowing from you have all the 1950s kind of elements there. You got the man, you got the government, you got the conspiracy there, you got the mad scientist guy, you got the the alien, you got the things that just were there and then they're not there the next moment. And it's not a magic trick, and it's like, it could be a threat, but it's funny. It's funny too.
Yeah, and then there's the one of the government people, the lady with the metallic glove, a la Michael Jackson, but actually that wasn't supposed to be like a reference to Michael Jackson. She was supposed to have a metal hand, a metal arm, but they were so cheap they couldn't. All they could get was kind of a glittery glove. So that's why that's there. But yeah, it's all done on the cheap. Like I said, it shouldn't work, but it does work. The things that they kind of had to cheap out on kind of gives it its charm. Like they couldn't get the any of the name brand. They thought maybe they could get some of the liquor and beer people to put some of their products in as get the rights to, but no one wanted to touch it except for one. But the air freshener company, they were one of the only sponsors of the movie. So you see those little air fresheners all over. They gave them a bunch of unscented air fresheners so it wouldn't stink up the place. but yeah, everything else is just generic. There's that one point Otto is at his parents' house and he pulls out a can of just food and starts eating it. It just says food on there. But yeah, the whole aesthetic of everything just having a generic label on it is quite fun in this movie. It's never commented on, but everything's generic. You have your generic gin, your generic beer, bourbon, yeah,
right. Yep.
Ketchup.
It kind of reminds me, or it kind of reminds me a little bit of like watching Roseanne back in the day, and they'll have like the family, the peanut butter will be like or whatever, kind of a homey feel, I guess. I don't know, in a strange way, in a way, but I was gonna say, I like that the way that this didn't he didn't care if people showed up or not. He was gonna make this was gonna be his statement, his first app. Really shows that he knows how to carry through a vision, and he knows how to use his resources very well for great storytelling that is compelling and makes you kind of feel, for like, what the hell, in a little bit, little uneasy, maybe a little uneasy. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I haven't seen all of his stuff, but yeah, there's a sense of him just doing. There's a few directors that kind of stay true to their sensibilities. A lot of them will, they finally will want to make that paycheck, and we'll do the big Marvel movie. That's the version of it today. But back in the day, there's ways to make money if you kind of sold your soul to Hollywood. And I don't get that sense with Alex Cox. He's always been kind of a visionary, and I would never be opposed to watching an Alex Cox movie. Like I said, I've definitely seen his. At this point, I've seen his kind of punk trilogy of Repo Man, Sid and Nancy, and Straight to Hell. All of those are real fun movies. But yeah, I haven't seen anything outside of that. But yeah, I would definitely be interested in seeing more of his stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely. I was going to say too. This is like one of those rare times where you have critics give it a overwhelming majority of 98% that they like it. Such a weird
well,
it's thing. It's sci-fi, kind of like what you were saying about how like if it's horror, subtract a point or two or whatever, like then it really is. Science fiction, if it's not done well enough, I mean, it's gone. I mean, if you can't tell, like nobody's gonna stick around. Never mind if it's horror or whatever. If it's just not there, but that just speaks to the power of his vision and his ability to execute on that vision.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I'm just saying it's so very refined when you consider the more you know about it, and then the other thing too I wanted to say, and then I'll throw it back to you, is this is more relevant today than it was back then, because you have things that are true in the present that only become more true if you have a good feel or grasp for the concept and can put it in a feel for a story. So anyway, it's just cool. But I'll throw it back to you.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to say that and this may be not true with this movie, but with a lot of movies that are come out pre-internet, by the time it gets to once the internet gets around to it, it's already become a classic. So when you review a movie that's considered a classic and you're putting your reviews on it, it may be slightly skewed towards being favorable. If Repo Man came out today, would it have the same scores as it got? It doesn't have that legendary status. So so I was kind of curious as to what people said about it back in the day. And here's I used to do this with the older movies, which I probably should get back in whenever Wikipedia has it. But here's what Roger Ebert said about Repo Man in January 1st, 1984. He says, "I saw Repo Man near the end of a busy stretch on the movie beat, 3 days during which I saw more relentlessly bad movies than during any comparable period in memory. Most of those bad movies were so cynically constructed out of formula ideas and commercial ingredients that watching them was an ordeal. Repo Man comes out of left field, has no big stars, didn't cost much, takes chances, dares to be unconventional, is funny, and works. There is a lesson here," and he gave it a 3 out of 4 stars. So very cool. Also, they said Neil Gaiman, who's much maligned today, he reviewed it for Image magazine and stated that one of last year's cult movie successes was Repo Man. It's not hard to see why. A lobotomized nuclear scientist is driving around Los Angeles in a car with something in the boot, dead extraterrestrials, a neutron bomb, and something even more bizarre. So yeah, yeah, I just thought it was funny that they got Neil Gaiman. Used to mean something, but today not so much. He's not on the fans list today.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is just like a lot of the films that we cover, review, talk about. There's two kinds of success in Hollywood. There is the upfront. What did it make? How much did it make? That it was it. How many toys did it sell? That sort of thing. And then there's films like this where the success comes later on. Like where it just builds and builds. But it's a shame that Hollywood they continue to not learn this lesson. and it doesn't matter if it's the 1980s, 1980, 84, or 2025. It doesn't matter. If they're more risk averse, if they knew that they could make money from, like a low budget sci-fi punk rock thing, film of all things, you could imagine like that would be any other given scenario, like where you get like a multiple of. I used to know the trivia answer, whatever, like of like what the by the math, like which film like the least amount of money versus like how much it made, like multiples of it, whatever. But this is also one of those things like where it it kind of pushes back. It's good. I don't know that I have too much more to say about it other than it is something that I am happy that I was able to find it and we could cover it and watch it, because you can see the DNA of so many different films that we've kind of touched on, not necessarily per se and pure genre mix, but and it isn't taking chances or subverting what you think you're going to see as it unfolds, like where you can easily put yourself in this thing of like, what the
Yeah, and anytime I'm given the choice between seeing a cult a stripped down movie that maybe didn't have a huge budget but was a passion project for the people that made the movie, if I have a choice between that or a very polished, maybe too slick Hollywood movie, I'm going to go 9 times out of 10. I'm going to go with the cult classic, punky sort of a movie like this. Maybe it's not as polished. Maybe it's a little rough around the edges, but there's something to be said in the movie and something to be said for it. And obviously, Criterion agrees with this because they put it on a Criterion disc. They got it and they put it out. They put it out on DVD, I think Blu-ray, and now on 4K. And then
that's right.
We're talking about Criterion. They have a Barnes & Noble's has a 50% off sale going on right now. So instead of retail $50, you can get for $25. I think I got it on sale back in the day for $35. So doing pretty well if you get it. So all this month of November is Criterion sale. So definitely.
That's just fun artwork. Anyway, that's fun artwork.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not real crazy about their clamshell art. Sometimes they kill it with their covers. Sometimes they don't. But yeah, they definitely killed it with this. Very cool. That's why I went with my green lighting, because it really goes hard with that cover. But yeah, very very punk. That sort of has like the map of downtown LA laying over the skull, which is the beginning of the movie. You've got like the green neon, beginning of the movie with the credits and everything. Very, very cool. Like everything about the movie, iconic. So yeah, if you're into your physical media, which I know I am, you might want to pick this up during this month, because it's going to be the cheapest that it's going to be for a while. So I know they run these sales periodically. I know there's a month sale this month, and then there's one earlier in the year, but sometimes they do like 24-hour sales. So I always wait. I make a little list of the Criterion movies that I kind of want to get, and then whenever they have a sale hit, I'm all over it. So if you're, I know we're kind of new to this movie, but if you've lived with this movie throughout the years and have something you want to say about it, definitely say it in our comments down below. If you've enjoyed our little discussion, we do this once a week. We've got a show that we've been doing on our binge-worthy television series, so you could watch that as well. But this is our regular podcast. We cover anything from sci-fi to horror to fantasy to sometimes we'll cover comic books. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, you might want to like, comment, and subscribe to us. And ring that little bell for notifications. And yeah, take a look at our back catalog. I'm pretty sure we've covered something else you might be interested in. So give those a watch as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's fun to find these gems, and we continue on. We continue to find them, and ones that I love that too, and it's always fun. And one last thing I was gonna leave a thought for the audience too was this is also has in common with its satirical sci-fi, which would also be Idiocracy too. So this is it just
Which we covered as well.
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So it's just like just a fun kind of film that you can kind of talk about just about any time, if it sufficiently reminds you. But yeah, well, with that being said, I've been Mike,
And I'm Tom. Let's go get some sushi and not pay for it.
dash and dine, or dine and dash.